Sometimes try to make other questions as well. So the first question before, like that question with Rich was really, really good. So, how would you describe the Inside Adventure Leadership Program?
Okay, so describing the Inside Adventure Leadership Program, I'd start by saying it's definitely an adventure. So, but how do we define adventure? You know, an adventure for an individual, an adventure for what aspect of that individual, how does that individual guide that adventure for themselves, but equally from a leadership perspective, how does that journey navigate through the self, and how the individual then interacts with the team, interacts with the organization, brings forth some of the innovation and the confidence and the self-belief to challenge some of the boundaries, I guess. And I think that's where the direction from this has gone. Looking to challenge boundaries, looking to have the confidence, looking to move forward, but also to be realistic and to accept how we look at success and how we look at failure, and really reframe that from a learning perspective.
And for you, so Andy, what have you learned about yourself as an individual and as a leader as well, both?
Yeah, good question. What have I learned about myself as a leader and an individual? I think if I do the other way around, so as an individual, I've learned a huge amount in terms of how I look at situations, how I take feedback, that I don't necessarily want to hear, maybe, how I deal with constant pushbacks and stay motivated and stay curious, and how I keep framing that and putting it in perspective. I think that's possibly the biggest thing that I've taken away is that ability to be introspective and to take those lessons forward in my personal life, but then of course in my professional life. So then, from a leadership perspective, applying that learning to how I engage with my team, recognizing that my team is my team, but it's a collection of individuals who are all different. So when we were looking at values, I've taken that values session and done that with my team to explore where they're coming from, and really to better understand who they are as individuals, what motivates them, how they keep pushing their own boundaries, how they deal with knockbacks or with advice that they might not necessarily have wanted to hear, and then how I support them in reframing that to enable them to push the boundaries of how they're working, to stay motivated and to work as a team. So we bring out the best of each other, recognizing each other's strengths and how those strengths contribute to the bigger picture. I think that's some of the things. I mean, I've taken a lot out of this program, but that's trying to focus in on some of the things I've taken.
And what's next for you? So, you know, I hear you've learned about yourself, about the team. So now when you go forward for yourself and for the organization and for your team, so what are your thoughts, or how do you look at the future?
That's a good question. How do I look at the future? How am I going forward? I think a key thing is, we've said it a lot, but pausing. And I've really taken a lot from that. So for example, give an example of how I've used that. I think in the past when I've been in meetings and people have asked me a question, I've felt that I needed to give an answer. And so I've been thinking quickly, how do I give an answer to that? Where in actual fact, now I feel a lot more confident to turn around and go, I need time to think about that, because it's a complex question and I need to take into consideration different elements. And then whether it's a few seconds pausing, or whether it's I go away and think and get back to the individual, but either way it's a much more considered response and it's a much more rounded response. So I think going forward, that's a key thing I've taken out of this, how I pause and reflect on my learning, reflect on other individuals reflect what the driver is here. Is the driver the organization, the beneficiaries, my own ego? What's the driver? And really put things into perspective. So as I go forward now, I can take time and actually go, for a start, I don't need to rush things. I don't need to be tripping over myself to push my career forward or to push this program forward. What's most important is that that program is done well, that we've got the evaluation process built in, that the team are on board with it, the team understand exactly what their role is and what the direction is. And for myself as an individual, thinking outside of the box, trying to be innovative, trying to evaluate a situation from our learning needs assessments, for example, and saying, okay, how do we best respond to those needs? And what other key drivers do we have? So it might be scalability, it might be economics, it might be whatever, but taking the time to pause, reflect, reevaluate, reassess, and then drive forward.
And if there was one thing you had to choose for the organization, so what do you want more after what you've learned and what you've gone through? What's the one thing you would like for the organization? If you look at the organization as an individual or as an organism, what would you like more for your organization?
Yeah, so I think whether the organization has been strong in the past is in certain times, like the Ebola crisis, where they had the courage to really step forward and be innovative and say, this is where the gap is, someone needs to do this, we're going to do it. I think I'd like to see that more from the organization. I think we're quite good at doing that, and we've got some fantastic leaders who are good at doing that. But equally, I think there's times where, we could be a bit more proactive. Not so much the organisation, but the sector. I'd like to see organisations being a lot more collaborative. And I think Save the Children's really good at being collaborative. I don't think every organisation is. But if we're genuine and we remove the ego from the equation and we focus on our affected populations, what they need is collaboration. And I think that's perhaps the biggest takeaway that I would like to see.
And if you were now to give an advice for future participants that start the course, maybe in the beginning people are a little bit skeptical, they don't really know what's coming, why am I doing this, why does this matter? What do you think is the biggest help or the biggest advice you would give a new person doing the program? So
when Band Aid recorded their record back in, I'll probably get the year wrong, 1982 or whatever it was, 1986, I don't know. They had all these huge musicians come in to record Do They Know It's Christmas? And they had a sign as people walked in saying, leave your ego at the door. Okay? That would be my advice. Whatever position you are in the organization or in your life or whatever, leave it at the door and come in as an open book, ready to share as much as you can, but equally ready to learn as much as you can, and ready to learn from everybody. It doesn't matter where that individual is in the organization. You never stop learning, and always staying curious.
So one more thing. So what do you want for the site? I asked you, what do you want for Save the Children? And now I'm going to ask you, what do you want for the program, for Inside Adventure?
For Inside Adventure, okay, I think for Inside Adventure going forward, I think I have got an immense amount from this program. Coming back to the previous question, I've got an immense amount because I like to think I came as an open book as much as I could. I think one of the challenges that people have faced is how much time they can dedicate to it. And that for me has been a challenge, as I know it has for colleagues. So I don't know how to address that, because I think you need to invest the time to get the most out of it. But then with balancing that with work and family and everything else, it's a challenge. How Inside Out can address that, I don't know, but I think I've really enjoyed the homework that we've been given, the challenges, the videos, the music. I've got a lot out of everything, and the reading, and I'll keep reading, particularly the bits I should have already done. But I think keeping challenging. I think in a way, perhaps, when we were in Barcelona, when we were up in the mountains, we had individuals who were seriously out of their comfort zone. I think we could perhaps do more being out of our comfort zone in the face-to-face, because then some of those individuals will be very much in their comfort zone and the roles will be reversed, potentially. I think also, I think an extra couple of face-to-face sessions, I know that might be a logistic challenge, but I know from having spoken with colleagues that we get a lot out of that, and it really builds that camaraderie, which is hugely important.
Cool. Do you have any questions?
No.
So I think that's it.
Thank
Any other
you.
thing you want to say, or?
I just, one thing I think you didn't ask me, if, we touched on at the beginning, was how as an individual I feel that I've moved forward.
Yeah.
So whilst this is a leadership program and it's had an incredible influence on myself in terms of appreciating the broader aspects of leadership, the individual and the leader are not mutually exclusive. So for me, how I've grown as an individual has had a huge impact on my professional life, but also on my personal life. So engaging with my family, engaging with my friends and my support groups, identifying who those key people are, has been huge for me. And in showing appreciation and in receiving appreciation as an individual, that's been really, really insightful, and I've got a lot out of that.
Thank you very much, Anne.
Thank you.
This is related to what Rich said. Did you
Yeah,
say?
yeah, very similar. Yeah.
Was it?
It's,
Yeah,
it's not only about the course; it's about friends at home as well. You know,
Yeah.
It's a big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, the impact that we are seeing, not only professionally, but many people also talking about